Could this be the next psilocybin? Many of you have probably heard about the benefits of psilocybin as a psychedelic treatment for a range of conditions. And first of all, I want to put this out there. Have you ever used psilocybin? Drop a comment down below to share your experience. So is this the next best psychedelic drug? Well, activity profile of 4-OH-DIPT was originally described by the famous Alexander Shulgin, the godfather of MDMA. He says that, "I truly doubt that there is another psychedelic drug that can match this particular drug for speed, intensity, and brevity. To be on a trip and then to be back pretty much 2 hours later is most unusual. If there will ever be an acceptance of drugs such as these, a short duration is of extreme value to both the patient and the therapist." Now, this was taken from TIHKAL, 1997, Alexander Shulgin. Now, of course, many of you will probably know about this Alexander Shulgin and how much he had pioneered in the psychedelic space. And what they're noting here is that RE104, which is what I'm focusing on in this particular video, RE104's pharmacological profile is in fact indeed similar to psilocybin. Now, bear in mind, guys, that psilocybin binds to the 5-HT2A, the 2A serotonin receptor, and we can see the concentrations required of psilocybin versus RE104 in order to actually bind to the 5-HT2A receptor. And we can see that anecdotal reports do indicate that RE104 is a psychedelic hallucinogen with shorter duration of the acute phase. So we can see how RE104 compares to psilocybin. An inside look into Field Trip's next generation psychedelic feature, referring to FT-104. I'm just going to be basically reading from this article. Field Trip is the only company exploring the therapeutic potential of a 4-HO-DIPT prodrug called FT-104, but how does it work? Now, recently news broke that Field Trip Health dosed the first patient in its phase 1 safety trial for their next generation psychedelic FT-104 for the company FT-104. For the company, this is exciting news as FT-104 is one of the first next generation psychedelics to make its way into clinical trials. Now, based on a somewhat obscure psychedelic, that 4-HO-DIPT, this FT-104 is apparently similar to psilocybin, though with a shorter duration lasting only around 2 to 3 hours. Now, what is FT-104? Now, the division is expected to be completed on August 17th, at which point the company will trade on the NASDAQ stock market and Toronto Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol REUN, R-E-U-N. Now, once this happens, FT-104 will become known as RE104. We'll just use it interchangeably for this video. FT-104 is a prodrug of that compound that Alexander Shulgin was talking about, 4-HO-DIPT, well, which is apparently one of the psychedelic pioneer Alexander Shulgin's favorite tryptamines. Now, why did Field Trip decide upon this little known compound to use as the scaffolding of their first novel psychedelic? What advantages do you see over other classical psychedelics such as psilocybin? And finally, what is actually novel about FT-104? Now, if we look at the unique advantages of this particular molecule, and this was sourced from Reunion Neuroscience, the mechanism of action is serotonin agonism. So a fast onset after a single dose, less than 24 hours, high initial response rates up to 70% with psilocybin and DMT in early trials, durable efficacy to 8 weeks or more with 20 to 30% remission after a single dose psilocybin, a few adverse events, mostly acute and limited to pharmacology of psychedelics, and not shown to be addictive. Now, the acute effects are circuit reboot. This is the disruption of the default mode network in clinic and monitored, disruption of the traditional patterns of thinking, and acute stimulation of neural connectivity providing insights. It also has durable effects new normal, so creating a new normal, which is in relation to the post-dose integration, which is continuous effects lead to neuroplasticity and changes in neural structure resulting in new and strengthened connectivity. Now, acute and long-term outcomes are augmented by the addition of psychological support sessions, so the preparation before exploration during, and the integration after dosing. Some of you have probably never tried psychedelic substances. One of the ways in which they believe they elicit a very powerful, long-lasting antidepressant effect is due to its ability to disrupt the circuit and act as a circuit reboot. Like it disrupts your default mode thinking and can block your normal ways of thinking and actually help for you to unravel and integrate a new normal in a sense. And that is that integration aspect after dosing the psychedelic. So more about this drug, and I'm just quoting from the article. At the start, we believe that a short duration experience on the order of 2 to 3 hours could be more acceptable to a patient, particularly for patients naive to psychoactive drug substances. Such a substance would also be more convenient for patients as well as psychiatrists and trained psychotherapists who will be present to monitor and protect or guide the patient as the psychoactive experience, sometimes referred to as a trip or a journey, takes place. But as a company, we also sought that any development to be protectable with patents so that the company could have commercial sales and marketing exclusivity so that it would be possible to recover the very high costs of development and allow for a return to our investors. And lastly, we also hope that it would be possible to achieve the two goals above, a shorter duration and intellectual property, by following a path that was built on a known psychedelic molecule to reduce the overall risk of the project. Despite all the work that has been done to date by a lot of very knowledgeable researchers, there are still many questions relating to how the pharmacology of psychedelics affect the psychedelic experience and the subsequent outcomes. 4-HODIPT offered a starting point for all these objectives, and it was right there in Shulgin's book as a favorite shorty, 2 to 3 hour trip time, a handle for a prodrug concept. And all we needed was the right prodrug concept that was patentable. In the first in-human phase 1 study, RE104 was shown to be safe and well tolerated with no serious or severe adverse events. The interim analysis included 32 healthy volunteers, 4 ascending dose cohorts, with 2 of the 8 subjects in each cohort receiving placebo. RE104 showed robust and pervasive pharmacodynamic effects with a shorter duration of psychedelic experience relative to published data with psilocybin, approximately 3 to 4 hours for RE104 versus 6 to 8 hours for psilocybin. Reunion also identified a dose level whereby the majority of the participants receiving a single administration of RE104 achieved a complete mystical experience, defined as a score of at least 60% in each of the 4 domains of validated mystical experience questionnaire. A complete mystical experience has been shown to correlate with psychedelic treatment responses in clinical trials of patients with depression, anxiety, and substance abuse disorder. So is this the future of depression treatment? With RE104, we are starting from a known substance with some anecdotal reporting and relying on that as somewhat of a de-risking strategy. MDMA and psilocybin are 2 very good products that could benefit millions of patients. We also truly believe in the potential for RE104 to meet the goals stated before. As for whether it is the ultimate drug product, we will have to wait and see. I'm just quoting from the article here. We do feel it has some unique properties and positioning that will help us to develop to its fullest potential. Now, recently, they found a family of serotonin 2A agonists that are also antagonists at serotonin 2B. We were extremely surprised and patented these molecules and are now considering them as pipeline candidates in our RE200 family. The structures are unique, and we're now starting to know more about their broader pharmacological profiles and their ability to produce a reaction in rodents that models the psychedelic hallucinations that occur in humans. The development of these novel structures will take time and a lot of effort to understand better these very complex molecules and their receptor systems, as well as their neural networks and downstream effects they initiate. So pretty exciting new research. I mean, the whole space of psychedelic substances is extremely, unique and cutting edge. I'll be announcing more information about the RE104 studies on my newsletter. So make sure you've actually joined that free newsletter, and also make sure you subscribe to my podcast. Many of my YouTube audience and also my Instagram audience has no idea that I even have my own podcast. I'm planning on interviewing the lead facilitator of the studies that were done on RE104, and also the professors and the pharmacologists, and also the neuroscientists that are somewhat involved in the project. So I'll be releasing a podcast, a longer form podcast talking about this. So please go over and check out the Boost Your Biology podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I'm on all the platforms. Please go and subscribe and check out some of those episodes, because I'll be sure to add one on this particular molecule. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.